This week we'll be talking about the graphic novel Pyongyang, A Journey in North Korea, and Les Blank's documentary Gap-Tooth Woman.
Welcome to New to You Show. We are exploring our second week of the theme, Nonfiction. I'm one of your hosts, John Holt. With me this week is...
I'm Mary Varn.
And...
I'm Adam Moerder.
And I'm Keith Allen Vincent.
All right. So last week we brought you a documentary that Moerder brought to the table from ESPN's 30 for 30 about Bo Jackson. You don't know Bo. And we also brought you a pick from Keith, Robert Rodriguez, the filmmaker's sort of journalistic diary of and sort of how to become an indie DIY director, Rebel Without a Crew. So both really great picks. And this week we hope to bring more nonfiction. And like Keith kind of said last week, nonfiction is a pretty broad topic. And so it's great, the diversity of picks that we have coming in. And it's something that we will definitely pick again as a topic. I think it's a good one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we will. I hope we certainly revisit it.
Yeah. So before we roll into topics, though, let's talk about what was new to Moerder this week.
Oh, man. So new to me this week. Last night I saw, for the first time, a band that I like a lot, Deer Hunter, live at Music Hall Williamsburg. They're very good. They played mostly like newer stuff. They have a ton of albums, even though they've only been around like 7 or 8 years or something like that. But yeah, it's a very fun show. And
wow, they're new to me. I need to check them out. Deer Hunter?
Deer Hunter. They're from Atlanta, Georgia.
All right.
Cool.
All right.
What are they? Can you compare them to something like? What are their influences?
They're a little bit. Sometimes they're a little like shoegazy, like My Bloody Valentine.
Sure.
Sometimes they're more like garage rocky.
Sounds right up my alley.
Yeah, they're kind of. They do a lot of stuff. He's very prolific, and the lead singer who basically writes and sings everything. So, they have like very drastic shifts from album to album. So, I think you're likely to land on something you like.
How long have they been around for?
I think their first album that got them on the map was released in 2007 or 8, and they've had 4 more since then. And then he also has this side project that's basically it's a solo project, but it sounds so much like the band because he leads the band anyways, called Atlas Sound. And it's mellow. It's kind of the more mellower, like usually folky or poppy version of that. But yeah, all of it's really great. And name of the band's Deer Hunter or Atlas Sound. Same guy, Bradford Cox from Atlanta, Georgia. So.
Cool.
What was new to you this week, Keith?
I don't know. Well, NFL's back, I guess. That's. I mean, it's new this season.
Which means the season's new.
Yeah. And my team's 2-0, but they look pretty ugly getting there.
Who's your team?
Yeah, let's get hate mail.
New England Patriots. And that's what's new. I hope they find some receivers.
Are they gonna do good this season?
Well, they always, they surprise me every couple of years where you're like, oh, this is the year when they're not going to be good. But they really having trouble moving the ball.
Yeah, they've had a lot of injuries too. I have Rob Gronkowski on my fantasy team, and he's just sitting there with his messed up back and broken forearm. So he should be back soon. Oh, and I had Shane Vereen too, so that was.
Whoa, man, you blew it on your
I did
fantasy draft. You know who's on my fantasy football team?
Who?
Merlin.
Don't insult my hobby.
Well, that's what I always thought. I always think is like, some nerd somewhere's got to make a fantasy football league.
There's a board game called Blood Bowl.
Well, that's not. But it's got to be fantasy football.
But the thing is, it's a collective. No, it's not even fantasy. But this is the best because you can build teams. You get points or whatever, and you'll have a team of all elves. And if you have injuries, they die. Like they get killed by the other team, and so you'll have to replace them. So like
with new drafts.
And the money maker for the game company is like if you want to use like a 400 point dude for your like 600 points of team, you have to go buy that model, and it's like $30 or something for that thing. And if it dies, you either have to like roll up new stats and get the new points to get that guy, or you have to just buy more guys to like fill the hole. But it's, you'll have orcs and humans and elves and undead playing
Brady's.
football.
Can you have Draculas?
Yeah, and they just kill, and it's all about playing football on the pitch and
That's funny.
trying to kill the other guy and cheat and stuff. So
What was the? There was a video game I think called.
Pigskin.
The baseball one with robots.
Well, there was a baseball one, but there was Mutant Football League, the MFL. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
But there's also one Pigskin, which was like Viking,
Yeah.
like redhead Vikings versus blonde Vikings.
So
Oh, yes.
fantasy football, y'all. Let's get Harry Potter in
Fantasy football. Mm-hmm. Voldemort.
We can have Merlin and a Dracula and
What about sexual fantasy football?
Bigfoot. I think that they cross over. I said Harry Potter.
Yeah, and Bigfoot. One and the same.
Anyway, so what's new to you, John Holt? Did we
All
already
right.
talk to you about?
So I have show and tell that no one will see.
and Mary's still got to say what's
Yeah,
new to
Mary
her,
hasn't
too.
said what's new to you. So I'm going to go first. So I bought 2 things that I haven't used yet, and that's what's new to me. Not that concept. That isn't new to me.
No, that is definitely not
Buying
new
stuff
to
is
you.
But
not
the
new.
things are new to me. So I bought Love Letter, the Kanai Japanese edition that they just printed here in the States.
Love Letter's a game we talked about
Yeah.
earlier in our
And so it has this
season.
sort of like woodcut
What was the
John
subject
is
matter when
unwrapping
we
the
did-
cards right
when we
now and
did
showing them
Love
to
Letter,
us.
Holt? What was the
I don't even know. I don't remember.
well, there's personal taste maybe.
Yeah, that might have been it. It might have been in the... But really, just like a good, fun game. And this one has some slight variations. The art is very different.
Yeah, that's really cool.
This is the Japanese edition?
This is basically the art from the original Japanese version.
Oh,
And so they're
from
printing-
the original Japanese.
Yeah, it was designed by a Japanese designer.
Well,
So
Adam
they're
maybe
like
can see
woodcut, sort of print looking. I think that the art, like this is the original art, this illustration style. It's actually within the realm of.
Wait, which
age.
one's the original art?
I mean, that's the original art. That's the American.
it.
art.
Nobody out there can see where Holt's
Right.
pointing.
So,
or,
Yeah.
or
so
any of
basically,
that.
the game was designed in Japan, made by this Japanese art designer or whatever.
He was an arter.
Has a woodcut. an
Wait,
arter.
so there's different cards in this. There's
Yeah,
a
so
clown
some-
and a knight and a
So
priestess,
some of the roles are replaced by different. What do I got?
minister.
Had something in your beard.
Oh yeah, it was love.
There's definitely less cleavage.
And you can
in this.
swap out different. There are 3
edition.
variations on the princess.
Oh, one of the princesses has glasses.
Yeah,
She's
so you
like
can have
a
glasses,
nerdy princess.
and you can have a prince instead of a princess if you want. So you can win the favor of the prince. So art-wise, that's good. And the other thing I bought, which is show and telly, is Grand Theft Auto 5.
Oh wow!
the collector's edition.
Comes in a money bag with a key.
I wondered what that was. That's neat.
It comes with an Uzi.
And there's the thing, and I haven't played it yet, but I'm
I
excited.
love the bag. That's really smart.
It's like a
The
weird
key.
money bag.
Is that so that your little nephews can't get in it and play?
Yeah, hide it from them.
Metal case.
Yeah,
Nice.
This is the no joke one or whatever.
There are lines of cocaine inside the case. You can't see this out there, but we're
Yep.
Yeah,
We're
we're
just-
doing
we're
the
blowing
cocaine right
lines
now.
right
I accidentally dropped a little bit on the microphone.
so now you all are.
You're all under arrest. This is a sting.
Oh man, Holt stinged me with
Yeah,
the
the case is
Grand
really
Theft
beautiful.
Auto. Yeah, I like that it's metal and John, what's the story behind this one? Is it modern day
it's-
or
I
is
think
it,
it's
in
modern.
LA? It's in LA.
It's actually like a fantasy island, but yeah, Los Santos or whatever. So it's a fantasy island place called Los Santos. I guess that's
And
like in
there's
LA.
no tattoo in it though.
I don't know if there's tattoos, but no,
No, the guy tattoo is not in it.
tattoo.
Yeah, tattoo.
Yeah. No.
The plane.
the
That's
plane,
on Fantasy Island.
There's like 3 different protagonists.
Yeah, so you can play. You actually will get a mission where you have all 3. Like a lot of it's planning and setup for the mission.
Oh, so it's multiplayer?
There's a multiplayer mode coming out. This is the single player campaign mode. You'll have 3 dudes, like kind of a rich white Italian-y guy, sort of black like hood kind of guy, and then a crazy like hillbilly cracker guy.
Great.
And he's just like, wah!
Glad I'm represented in video games finally.
But what'll happen is they'll
Do they shoot outhouses with dynamite
Yeah.
arrows? And go,
It's Yosemite Sam.
I don't know. I don't know if I
Are they
should call
being
him
chased
hillbilly.
by
He
by
might
it?
just be like street, just crazy, like the
Okay.
crazy guy. But what happens is, in normal game mode, you can switch between from character to character and follow them and do their little missions specific to them. And sometimes you'll it's like Street View where you'll zoom out from a guy, whip over and zoom in on another guy. And like you might come in on the crazy guy and he's chasing some other guy through the park already. Like just like being crazy.
But then do you control them?
You control them, yeah. Yeah,
see, there are a couple of games that they did that in the last Batman game a little bit too. And I always think it's kind of a mistake to allow the player to be different players in the same thing, because it almost disconnects you from that. It's no longer you. You know, you're just driving this guy.
I think in this one it becomes like each one has its own personality and they're each has a specific role. And what you are
What about your personality, John?
You don't have
How would
one
you
in this.
steal a car?
Well, the previous game got a lot of criticism because the character would be like kind of level-headed in the interstitial cuts or whatever, and then all of a sudden the mission would be like beat this guy's brains in or something.
Right, yeah.
And everyone's like, oh, it doesn't seem to like resonate with the character because they want to have him be a somewhat well-rounded, like relatable character, and I think that's why they split him.
Yeah, in this it's also like you'll have a heist and one guy will be, up top with the sniper rifle, and the other two guys will be on the ground.
One man will be the bag man. One man will be the driver.
Right, and so
the wheel man.
You're swapping between roles. It's like we're pinned down. Cut to this guy, and he can pick off dudes. Then you cut back to your guys, and they hop in the car and go. So there's
when we make our Space Pirates game, that'll be okay to do.
You mean Space Tutors?
Space Pirates, Pirates in Space,
Spiders.
But I don't know. I think it's good to have your character in it. I think it's better that your character have only the personality that you lend to it. When I play games, I really like that more.
But I mean, that's like in a Zelda or something, it's fine. But people really do react to the Jacks or Jack and Daxter, one of those things where the character has a little personality and you're becoming someone else a little bit. And especially if there's a narrative.
Sure. Like, you can't have that sort of game without your character having some personality.
But they have a narrative too. And that's part of this thing is having those narratives and developing theirs. I haven't played it yet. I just got it, so that's the other thing. So,
cool.
But it's watching the reviews. There's some, as is sort of this is the latest thing. There's some issues with like misogyny or whatever that's in there, and that's a big, it's problematic.
They're criminals. What are you going to say?
Well,
what are you going to do?
This could be a whole other podcast.
Yeah, this is a whole other thing.
Yeah, you're right.
But there's some controversy. That's
once you
different.
play it, and then let us play it. We'll all talk about it.
It's sort of interesting that the controversy is not so much about killing like people outside of the game thing talking about like how bad this is. It's more about there's some other discussions coming up within the actual gaming community about how the game is being received and discussed. So that's all. Mary, what's new to you?
I've been listening to the official Breaking Bad podcast.
Ooh.
If you watch
Baking bread.
If you watch Breaking Bad,
I do. I watch Breaking Bad.
You should listen to this podcast.
I'm caught up too.
AMC doesn't market this podcast, and it's really
Who
good.
hosts it? Who?
Vince Gilligan is on just about all of them, I believe.
Awesome.
They go episode by episode. The main editor, I forget her name, but like the head editor of the show hosts it and moderates it. They have every show. It seems like they have a writer and or a director and or a producer and some of the actors. And I only found out about it at the beginning of the season. So I've been listening to
it's
just
been,
this
the podcast has been around
going the
for
whole
some?
time. Yeah, they do a podcast for every episode. So don't listen to it if you haven't watched if you haven't watched the latest episode yet. It's labeled per episode, so just watch it or listen to it for the episodes that you
after you watch.
Right,
that
but it's such a great insight into the show, but also just into making TV in general. It's a lot of it. They are very honest about how they didn't know it was going to happen. They're just
I think it was only supposed to be 3 or 4 seasons.
Oh, really?
Because there was a New Yorker article about Bryan Cranston, and he had to kind of convince Gilligan?
I think it's Gilligan.
Or
but,
Gulligan or something.
I'm
Anyways,
not
he had to
sure.
convince Vince Gilligan to prolong it another 1 or 2 seasons.
Oh, really?
Which is funny because you can definitely feel that love after the 3rd or 4th season. You're like, geez, how can this keep going? Like he's kind of eliminated his major problems or whatever. But it's very interesting.
Yeah.
I want to check that out.
Yeah, do it. It's really good. And she's been having Aaron Paul on as well, but he's like not in the room with them, so she'll just cut away to when she's talking to him. And but yeah, it's
But
great.
it definitely, like, I mean, I haven't listened to it myself, but I've heard you talk about it. It sounds like they lend a lot of perspective to how they reach decisions in writing and how they're like, oh, wow, we kind of put ourselves in a corner on this one. Let's then they talk about and walk through things that weren't deliberate, but they found themselves having to figure out how to explain this thing away in a good way, in a smart way. And it's, you know, just hearing them talk about it sounds
Listen to it.
pretty smart. And
It's just called Breaking Bad Podcast.
Yeah, look it up at I think it might be called the official Breaking Bad podcast. I'm not sure. It's on AMC's website, but they don't really promote it. They always promote that Talking Bad thing that comes on after the show, which is fine,
that's like
I guess.
Talking
But
Dead, but yeah.
right, with Chris Hardwick, but
The Nerdist guys.
right. But that's more like fluff entertainment, and this podcast is
Gets into the nuts and bolts.
Oh yeah.
Good. That's cool.
So yeah,
Good recommendation. I'm going to check it out.
do it.
But I got to watch Breaking Bad first.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Well, that sounds like a good pick for nonfiction too, but that's not a pick from this week.
Nope.
Yeah.
Speaking of nonfiction, that's our topic this week.
Yeah.
Oh, didn't you bring some stuff?
this week is Pyongyang, A Journey in North Korea by Guy Delisle. I don't know if I'm saying that right. It's a French
Looks
name.
like Delisle.
That
Or like
is what it looks
Delisle or
like. But
something.
we don't have Jules on this week, but he's a native French speaker, fluent French speaker. He told me
Oh, yeah?
it's Guy Delisle, something like that.
Oh, okay.
But who knows what it is in Quebec?
It looks like in American, it looks like Guy
Delisle.
Delisle.
Delisle, yeah. But anyway, it is about it's a memoir. It's his memoir, his travel log, sort of.
But written in graphic novel form.
Yes, graphic novel of his journey to North Korea. He is a French-Canadian animator, and he went to North Korea back in... I couldn't pin down exactly when he went, because, of course, the novel's published a few years after when he went, so sometime around... they do mention that George W. Bush is president. I don't know if it's before or after September 11th, though, so... not that that's super relevant, but they do kind of talk about wars and things like that.
Well, he was only president for less than a year before that happened, so
That's true.
chances are.
That's true. So, so he goes to North Korea as part of an animation job to supervise a bunch of animators there and give them notes. And he has a guide and a translator who go with him everywhere. And it's just super interesting because obviously we don't get much
We don't hear
information
any
about
stories,
about North Korea, and he, I don't think he was supposed to take a camera or things like that, but you can
you can draw it, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So He did take a copy of 1984 and read that while he was there. And so, yeah, it's just a super interesting...
That's neat. I had looked through it and read through it, and I didn't realize he was an animator. I knew he was a teacher. I guess I must have missed that part.
Yeah, and I think his career, from what I know, I don't know a ton about him, but I think his career has turned more to cartooning. He's done some more of these travel logs. The Pyongyang is one of his more well-known ones just because of the subject matter.
Sure.
But I think he just came out with one about Jerusalem, and then he has a parenting one out more recently. So I haven't read those. These are, I don't know about his other ones, but this one is in black and white, which is really fitting for the subject matter because it just all seems so bleak and
colorless.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's like classified information too. So you think of like stealthy like black and white photos or something.
Right,
like,
right.
Yeah.
Well, you just think of that redacted,
Yeah.
Or
Exactly.
redacted, sorry.
Right.
Redacted, like black marker over
Yeah,
all the stuff.
yeah. He does certainly seem to have, he has a very Western point of view most of us would share about going to North Korea, like, whoa, this is so crazy. But he does, just keep in mind, he's not a journalist. He's going into this he is a foreigner, he has a guide and a translator. He stays at one of these special hotels that foreigners stay at. And he's reading 1984 and thinking about how...
The whole time he's there.
Right. Thinking about these thoughts of Big Brother
Police
and
state,
how this place is like that. So it's certainly colored with that. But yeah, did you guys have a chance to read it, to look at it?
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's different subject matter, but it kind of reminded me of Persepolis a little bit, and then it's pretty realistic accounts done in a neat cartoony way. It's neat that that's the power of a graphic novel, I guess, is that because you're just looking at the cartoon characters, it I don't know what it is. It sinks in differently that this is reality kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I really like it brings a different feel to a nonfiction topic.
Yeah, totally.
Oh, and Persepolis is another graphic novel but it's about a lady that grew up in Iran.
And that's also autobiographical, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, I just said it so it's not confusing to others.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. I specifically like the like you said, the non-journalistic approach to it. Not that there's would be anything wrong. I mean, it'd be amazing if we could get like a bunch of journalists over there and stuff. But there's something that just like reminds me of having this. It's as if like a friend of mine went over there and was just like, "Oh, dude, like this was so crazy. They had this huge statue. They had like pictures of the previous leaders and blah blah blah. And they're no old people. It's just like really weird. And I don't know. There's something just obviously, like, the facts or whatever are underlying and are kind of creepy and everything, but it's also just so, I don't know, it was really neat to hear it from, not naive, but just, like, a very down-to-earth, like, not thinking too much about this, but also being aware of
I think purposefully not thinking too much about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Trying not to think too much about it.
Right, just trying to, like, kind of take it all in, put, like, a slight, like, humorous twist on it or whatever, because he's a cartoonist or whatever, but it was just, I don't know, it felt like surreal, but at the same time, like kind of like what Key said, in the most like accurate way, in a weird way.
Yeah.
I think it was a little too I guess my kind of thing was, I was reading it, is you have somebody who, like, we have embargoes, pretty heavy embargoes against North Korea, and being from the United States, we maintain a lot of those. And so you don't have very many Americans, even in this accounting of in this tale. So, it was sort of interesting from, our perspective to think about it. It's with Cuba, we're sort of like, oh, you can't go there. You have to go in a roundabout way through like Canada or something to get
Well,
there.
I think they've loosened those restrictions, but that's
right,
beyond the point.
But it's that sort of like, we don't go there because of X, Y, and Z. With North Korea, that is more apparent and more like, we don't support this guy.
Yeah.
It's sad for his people, but at a certain point, like anybody who's in those borders, it's just going to fall apart at some point, and we can't, like there's a certain point where you go, well, how much, like when are we withholding humanitarian aid is something we shouldn't do, but going in and putting money into an economy like is, by doing animation jobs or something there, it seems exploitative, and it's something he doesn't really go into, but he sort of has this like, this attitude of like, oh, kind of giving these counterculture hints, but at the same time, he's working a job that profits off of the need of this state and these people, and the people aren't benefiting from what he's doing. It's like he looks around at all these people. There's sort of a moment he keeps coming back to where he sees someone doing like children pulling buckets of water from a fountain and spreading it on the ground because they're volunteer and they love to water the grass. A guy on the side of the road with a sickle cutting long grass as a volunteer. People volunteering to paint this iron bridge. Like volunteers doing all of the sort of civic work in this place, but then it's like you also have these unseen laborers producing this work that he's paid there to be, they're doing, and it's something that I was sort of, I don't know if it was conscious to do that, but that was one of the big sort of blinders for me.
So you're saying that the author kind of shirked thinking about that, or shirked that discussion a little bit?
I think it's a little disingenuous to be.
That's something that's interesting.
To kind of have this like, I gave this guy 1984. Oh, they didn't get to my other film, and they didn't, like, these sort of like ribbing these guys who were his guides, and sort of like, thinking about the times where he would have these speak up moments and try to challenge their culture or whatever, and then have other moments where he's talking about the obvious, like the NGOs were telling me, the reason why a lot of humanitarian aid got pulled out is because the state and the polocrats were the ones profiting from this. The people weren't getting this rice. It was going to the heads. So the people aren't getting the money from this economy that these foreigners are bringing in. They're not the ones profiting from HDTV or any of that stuff. It's all to feed the state. And it was a little like that disconnect for me was, again, maybe it's because we in the States have,
maybe that's another
embargo.
thing that he was actively trying to not think about.
Wait,
Yeah.
what you mean? What would it have been if there wasn't the disconnect? I'm not sure I follow.
I mean, again, he's spending 2 months in a country working for an animation job that's paying him money, right? And he's flown there, and he's sort of like, it's different than, I guess there's like a different thing. Like if you go to like sub-Saharan Africa or something, and in a depressed area, your job is, like you
to
are
teach these people how to animate so that they can do overseas productions,
right.
And therefore, hopefully, give them a new
Right.
opportunities to have a job.
You're dealing with a population that's living in a relative level of like anarchy or like warlord level things, where their terrors are different and their social outlook is different, versus a controlled police state where you are coming in and effectively being one of the cogs in the machine that
will perpetuates
the
situation.
the things, and to be there poking at the ribs of the people who are under the heel of the boot was a little bit, this was no mouse. This wasn't like a real like political statement. It was an interesting snapshot of a country and like a from the ground perspective, but it just got on my nerves a little bit when you have somebody, like you have people who are drinking the Kool-Aid and going crazy. It's, I guess the parallel I draw is there's a certain point where if you are, yes, you may know you're right, but that doesn't make you less of an asshole for pointing it out to somebody who's not smart,
doesn't have a choice,
who's wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. He comes off as a little bit cocky to me, and he comes off as very bold. I would be terrified to he brings in like a radio that he's not supposed to bring in, and I think I would be terrified to do that. You know,
right,
like
right.
I
to go
would
through a checkpoint with
yeah. Like he does little things that are against the authority that we would not. It wouldn't be a big deal to us, but.
Well, I used to play volleyball with a French-Canadian guy, and he's very cocky, too.
Oh, well.
Very self-assured. Very overly confident.
Those French
Maybe it's a...
Let's definitely reinforce some stereotypes.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking if I can alienate one group, that'd probably be the one I'd want to alienate.
But again, this
certainly
is
not the North Koreans.
That's my critical mind on it. I mean, I enjoyed the art. I enjoyed the storytelling. I enjoyed this thing that you don't get access to, which is the perspective of someone who is that cog, who's coming in from an outsider, fish out of water situation, and they've built places for these people to be, and they have rules and regulations that monitor the entire. They have an island built for all the white people, like for all the. They have
like the green zone kind of thing.
Right. I mean, this is where you live when you are, and this is
visiting.
how you act when you're visiting, and here are the routines you should expect, and that's how we fit you into our box. So that to me, that was interesting to kind of see this guy's reaction to it, as I think someone who is probably the other side of this, not being malicious in a lot of ways, again, kind of being cocksure, but also he's not a deep thinker in that regard, where he's not coming across as someone who's analyzing the gestalt, like the where he is in the world. He's definitely
like what it means.
Yeah, he's saying, this is who I am at this level, and I'm interacting with those things at my level. And someone might tell me something, and I'll think about it a little bit. For the most part, that kind of stuff is not. He's not kind of thinking up and above too much. Which there are times where I think
well,
he
if
wants...
you're going to accept that job, you're not going to be thinking of that
right.
anyway, I think.
But there are times where he's sort of looking at... He's in his comic, he's trying to kind of have transcendental, like this... The turtle in the fish tank, like a beautiful thing trapped in a box in this dim restaurant, is... he keeps coming back to that for a reason, because... it's a fish out of water, or a turtle in a fish tank.
It's a symbol.
Yeah, it's a symbol for these things.
It's almost like a metaphor, almost.
But there are larger...
Is it like a simile? I don't know.
It's similar to a simile. But it's, so it's a little bit... I don't know. In reading it, I enjoyed reading it. That was sort of the thing that made it a little bit like...
So you're reading it and you're enjoying it, but there's a little bit at the back of your head that's going, wait a second.
Well, I mean, as with a lot of things...
This guy's French-Canadian.
I usually just let it go along for the ride, like let it happen.
Did he speak French when he was there? Was his translator speaking French?
Well, he speaks on that. He says that up to a certain point, he had a translator who spoke French, and then his second translator who they brought in speaks English. So,
nice.
Yeah,
so he was bilingual even there?
And this was first published in French.
Right.
That's what I figured.
But that's something too, is that for the, we have worked in animation industry that relies on,
overseas production.
Yeah. And I mean, for the most part, I don't think personally we've had to work on shows that have dealt with that outside, like Canadian and like an occasional, like maybe a Korean studio that's like 2 levels removed or something, but it's South Korea.
And we have a friend who went over.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. Yeah. Did have you spoken to him about this?
I haven't really. Adam, I heard him talk to you about it today at work a little bit.
Yeah, briefly. He said he has this graphic novel.
He basically kind of was in this author's position where he was a supervising animator.
He went to go train people to animate.
Yeah, but in Malaysia.
Yeah.
Right. But again, there's always going to be socioeconomic issues. But again, it's like going down to Jim Jones and teaching people how to make hammocks. So, and then they're going to take the money they get from the hammocks that you sell and buy Kool-Aid with it. It's don't you like that? Yes. But you know what I mean?
And then drink that
It's a
Kool-Aid.
situation where it's not
On your ham.
having... The symbols are there on the wall all the time. The symbols of oppression are constant. And to not think about where you fit in to those levels of oppression, I don't know. It was a little... That was an examination that I was waiting for in the novel. But yeah.
Interesting.
I gotcha.
Good take.
What'd you think, Murder?
I feel you, bro. I mean, I liked it. I liked it just because it was very interesting to hear someone's take on North Korea. It's funny. I wish I knew more about this news story, but I don't know if you guys are aware that Dennis Rodman, the crazy NBA player, went to North Korea and was like, "Guys, it's so awesome over there." Like, I'm sure they did this similar treatment where he saw the like.
Well, no,
theme
he got
park.
it even better because he
Well,
was
yeah, he
with
was the
the
special
emperor,
guest
with
yeah.
the whatever the chosen one or the supreme leader.
And I'm sure they like wined and dined him and made it seem like amazing and everything. And it's, I mean, he obviously like responds way differently than Guy here, but yeah, I don't know. It's just like how few firsthand accounts we have in North Korea is really like kind of just shocking in this like modern world we live in, where there are phones everywhere and everything.
Satellites. I'm sure there are 15 satellites trained on North
Google
Korea
Earth
at any time. Yeah.
But yeah. So I mean, I just really, at least at the very least, I agree with John that like there are points where he's so smarmy, and taking 1984 is the most like cliched book you could possibly bring to like North Korea. Like I didn't think that like joke was particularly funny, but I thought whatever. I'm always happy to revisit that book, but especially when it is like very, very relevant to something like this. But not when people are like, "Oh, George Bush's big brother" or something. I'm like, okay, not really. But
Yeah. Try Pyongyang, son.
yeah. But no, I just thought I don't know. I still found it like very interesting and
Yeah, I mean, just beautifully done too.
Yeah.
mm-hmm.
It was interesting how all the lights were off all the time.
That was a
like
note
it's
I
like
took,
it's
yeah.
dark all the time because I guess they don't.
Conserving
Spin-
electricity.
Right.
And in the
right.
subway, it's like Las Vegas. or
Right.
whatever,
Right. Yeah. And
Well,
it's
because
got
you think
chandeliers.
about it, and you have, you go to bring back a sub-Saharan like or desert. You're gonna go out there and there's nothing but stars because there's no light pollution because they don't have electricity, or you know what I mean, or they have one electrical pole and they have one light bulb or something. Where
Who?
I'm making up a beautiful third world country.
Oh, okay.
So you have
Holtistan,
Yeah.
we'll call it.
yeah, where I am a free-for-all, anarchistic, laissez-faire leader. I'll just let them do what they want.
Yeah.
Which is
as
usually
long as
just
they don't
fall
mess with
into-
your harem,
Yep.
it's fine.
But heron,
Heron? You
Right.
have a bird?
fish farm.
Heroin?
Yeah, and- yes.
And-
So I use the
Holtistan?
heron to move the heroin to feed my harem.
Perfect. I love your country.
Yes.
It sounds beautiful.
So anyhow, I guess what I'm saying
3
is,
resources.
in a third world country where you have no infrastructure whatsoever, you would kind of walk in and it's going to be culture shock or whatever. But imagine, you walk into a developed buildings and
Well, developed up until the 50s.
right. Well, it's post 50s, right? It's
Well, no, but all the cars and everything look like it's...
they're from the
Yeah.
they should be from the because everything was bombed to hell in the 60s, right? Or in the 53.
50s.
Yeah.
So everything's got to be like it's like going to Tokyo or something. Everything was crushed in the earthquake. It all looks like it's built in the 70s because that's when it was built or whatever, or 80s. And so it's that same kind of thing where you've got infrastructure, you've got money that's gone in to build this facade, but there's not enough power to keep it lit, and there's not enough people, or the people aren't even allowed to go out and enjoy or do these things because they're all working out.
They're volunteering, Holt.
Volunteering, and
Like the people of
just hard-
Holtistan do.
Yep.
When they shovel the heron poop.
Yep.
Yeah.
Onto the heroin fields.
Right,
for fertilizer.
right.
It's a cycle of life.
Yeah.
That's what I'm getting to. Like,
Holtistan is very, they use everything.
and I'm gonna raise a Kickstarter
Every
to get
part
our
of the harem.
organic registry down. So
Good.
it should be fine.
But yeah, the takeaway, his view of it is kind of that they're the guide and translator are always showing him all these great things. This country's so great. Our leader's so great, etc. Where other countries love us so much. They go to this like friendship museum where look, all these countries have given us all these wonderful, beautiful things, all this stuff. So it's sort of this like facade, but then he's noticing all these weird things that totally subvert that, like, but there's not enough electricity to keep the lights on, and all the bulbs are really dark, and you're rationing water to me, and that water is expired a month ago, and you take the label off because you don't want us to see that it's from South Korea or whatever, and the tablecloth is really dirty and wet for some reason all the time, and so I mean, I don't know if it's really like that or still like that, but that's kind of the takeaway.
I bet it's pretty much like that. I mean, why would it have changed in between there?
If anything, it's probably a little like it's a little more.
If anything,
desperate.
that tablecloth is a little more damp.
Yeah. Well, I think that's probably another power issue, right? Where your washers can't
your dryers
wash them, and your dryers can't dry them, so you're just putting damp, half-clean tablecloths back.
I wouldn't even put it in the water. It's a tablecloth.
Yeah.
Come on,
just flip it over.
Yeah,
pour some water on it.
Dump it in that fountain.
Yeah.
But I do try to see the other side. It sounds kind of ridiculous to say this, but I mean, and I know North Korea it's totally different from East Germany, say in the 80s and stuff. But
there are definitely similarities,
right? But there are similarities, and I grew up a child of the 80s watching, like, you know, I don't know if you'd call it propaganda, but in a way it was sort of like just movies showing how desperate the East Germans were to get out from behind the wall and things like that. And then in college, I visited the Eastern, you know, the now united Germany in the Eastern region, and I had a friend who lived there, and I was talking to his friends and everything, and I was the young, naive American who had heard all these things, and I mean, hopefully I didn't come off as too ignorant, but I was sort of expecting to hear this tale of, and then in
the bread lines,
right, and then 89 or 90, then we all got out, and it was so wonderful that we got
our
free,
leather jackets.
right, and it wasn't that, you know.
David Hasselhoff came to save us,
right. I didn't hear that narrative at all. It was kind of like, oh yeah, and then.
Well, that's the thing. The human condition is an amazing one, because if history has taught us anything, it's that we can learn to cope and deal with the most extreme situations.
Yeah, and like my friends' parents had some like low positions in the government, so when the wall fell and everything, that kind of, for them, they had to find disarray. Right, they had to find other work, and so it was. So I just sort of try to see, like, you know, in Pyongyang, he's kind of laughing at these people a little bit, saying they're brainwashed. And honestly, I do sort of believe that they are.
Well, I mean, you can call it brainwashed, but I mean, if you're, it's like any religion. You're raised in this system. You are told that this system is correct. Why would you think to even question it?
And there are parts of the system built to reinforce and to like sell the tautology. If someone is telling you, subversive things or anti-system things, turn them in, or else you're subversive by not turning them in. And so one, that helps reduce the number of subversives, and two, it reinforces, ideology of the state is strong and everyone is with the state. And you fall into that pattern, and you gain a level of desperation the more things fall apart, because you have to just keep moving forward, following what's going on, because it's a little crazy where everything's falling apart around you. Everyone is telling you that you're not underwater, and you're drowning. Something like something is
Mm-hmm.
off.
Well, I mean, it's all about context, and if
Right.
if your life you feel like you're content, then who's to say you're not content? I'm not saying that things shouldn't change, but you say you're drowning, but to them, within that system, it's working because they're not rebelling. They're not
Right.
Well, they're not in the
something-
camps.
Well, it's
so-
also kind of like they're just selling out their own the struggling people. They know everything's messed up. It's almost like reminds me of that guy Joe Pantoliano's character in The Matrix when he's like steak like it tastes
Yeah.
delicious whatever, and he just sells out all humans
Yeah.
to the agents. Like he's happy to be that like interpreter who smiles, or that tour guide or something, and it's like
Yeah,
I know.
but, I mean,
it's probably like I know North Korea's messed up, but I could be like shoveling shit and getting paid nothing, or I could be wearing this like suit.
It's the prisoner's dilemma
Right.
taken
Yeah, but,
to the nth degree.
I mean, it makes you wonder, and trust me, I'm not defending any of this. I think it's all, it's all terrible. But if these people are raised to think this is the norm, then it's not selling anyone out. It's really what you're supposed to be doing. You know what I mean? So to this guy, he's not Joe Pantaleon.
Yeah, I forget his name in the Matrix, but yeah, not Spider.
His character Cypher.
Cypher. Yeah,
Cypher in the Matrix, he knows the system is busted. These people are in it. You can't see the forest for the trees. So to them, they're not selling anyone out. They're doing what's supposed to be right.
But at the same time,
it's like
there's a certain
any
point
religion.
Where
Like
you
I
do
said.
know. I mean, there's a certain point where you know the consequences. Like in a religion, that we've got a Methodist coloring book. If you color outside the lines, you're going to go to hell. So, in a religion, you toe the line, and if you step out of line, you're dooming yourself or whatever. And in North Korea, if you step out of line, you're dooming your family as well.
Well, I mean,
So-
I'm sure there were periods of time in the world where if you step out of line, your whole family is put at risk as well within the Christian world.
Right.
I mean,
well,
there's-
I guess what I'm saying is this is a closed system. There's no walking out or walking away. There's no exile. It's straight, you're either in the camp or executed or whatever. It's basically you're either in or you're out.
Yeah.
There's it's a stark, harsh reality. And
No, you're either in or you're dead or in a
and
re-education.
and again,
thing.
it's at a certain point, it's the best people in that situation are going to be, by a certain ideology, the strongest, the people who hold on to personal value or personal freedom or value anything that we out in a Western civilization has purported to value, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Those people are gone. They have been weeded out and selectively removed from the society by the very devices of the society. It's like ideological, breeding program where you're making sure that the people who are going to survive.
That's
are
how
the
you
ones-
domesticate wolves into
Right.
chihuahuas.
Exactly.
Selective breeding.
And so that's
Take out the aggressive ones.
Right.
That's how they do it in Holtistan.
Yep. Our
I just-
herons are well trained.
I just wonder if while he's sort of laughing at them and saying that they're brainwashed, if many of them are saying, well, they're brainwashed by capitalism and look how
totally.
fat they are, and they're Coca-Cola, sugar water.
Just sit in an office all day, like a bunch
Yeah.
of robots. Blah, blah, blah,
Yeah.
I think what's interesting is there are a few moments of peace and respite. The joyous moments are the ones where they're all hanging out, drinking, and having dinner together. There's a few of those. And there's one where he gives them some booze and they get really happy about that because he's giving them contraband, which is a little bit condescending. But, it's true that he would, you're giving them a gift and they don't expect it. And that's great because you probably, I don't know, this might be naive.
I thought he
but-
was kind of told to bring some of these
Yeah, but
gifts.
that gift would have been given to the animation director on the project.
Mm-hmm.
And since he never met the animation director, so he kind of says, well, I'm going to give it to this interpreter and this guide who I've kind of teased along the way, but have been my companions for 2 months. And he gives it to them, and they don't expect it, and they're delighted, and it's something that
And then they immediately turn it into their superiors.
Yes, and they're here for the great leader, and they pour it out a little bit for Kim Jong Sung or whatever, our buddy in Christ.
The granddaddy one.
Which is also that whole it is I mean, it's a nationalistic religion too. It really is. Yeah. I saw that. When you have somebody who is the godfather and the son it's like a sun god,
It's a
priest
old
king.
tale as old as time.
Yeah. Yep. So anyhow, that was my take on it. I thought that was interesting. There were that one moment where they did laugh was actually at that he kind of takes note of was actually like a violence joke because he looks at this bag of meat and goes, "Oh, that looks like the torture museum we just went to," and they all take a beat and then go, "Ha ha 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 ha." That's a great joke. So I don't know. That's my take. Sorry, I was not down on it. I definitely recommend reading it. But
no, I mean everything's got caveats. Like last week when I was talking about the Bo Jackson thing. I mean,
Keith just thinks he's faster than Bo Jackson.
Yeah.
Fatter than Bo Jackson.
I could eat more pies.
Yep.
I don't know, man.
I can't shoot an arrow like him. But Pyongyang was cool, Mary. Thank you for bringing it up.
Cool.
I liked it.
Yeah, I see, John.
Yeah. So
no, John liked it too. I could tell.
Pyongyang, A Journey in North Korea.
Yeah.
Guy Delisle.
You can get it. I don't think
2003.
Yeah.
It was released in graphic novel paperback.
Yep.
It might be available in a comic book e-reader format. We'll check and see for you, but it's definitely available in hardcover right now.
Get the book.
It's definitely available in Dead Tree format.
Yes. So
You're gonna want to hold this one in your hands too.
Yeah.
So.
It's Audi. All right. So let's
three younger brothers that I would babysit a lot, and when my parents were away, if we'd sneak back in the cupboard and take a bite out of a candy bar or any other forbidden cookies or cakes or whatever, my parents always knew when I had done it, and I thought they were so magic and all-knowing until I caught on that they were recognizing my signature, which was my teeth marks on the food, you know.
All right, so my pick this week was a documentary from Les Blank, the director of documentaries. The documentary is called Gap-Toothed Women. He released it in 1987. It's a short film, short documentary relatively. It's about 35 minutes. It's about women with gap teeth and that mystique and how they're different than us and us normal people.
It's regular toothed people.
I think what they're talking about is how concepts of beauty are defined by certain regimes or whatever, and gap-toothed women don't fit into standard definitions of beauty in a culture, and at least in the Western culture or whatever. Mm-hmm. And so he's sort of exploring, do these women, like one of the subjects in the documentary say, have to have something else because they are, they don't have to just rely on their looks or whatever, but they can just go out and be somebody, be something. And that's what a gap tooth allows them to have. So it's a fun, short, entertaining sort of look. I don't think it takes, there's always a point of view with a documentarian, but I think he's pretty much trying to be a lens, just capturing moments and putting them together, freezing on the gap tooth.
But he's he's choosing which moments in a way that other narratives or other documentaries have more clear, like the Bo Jackson thing, like
right.
This is when he had his hip injury, so we're gonna show you that.
Yeah, I think I guess what I'm saying is he doesn't have a solid this is the narrative of this documentary. There are moments and highlights and ideas that he kind of wants to bring to the table, and questions that he's not answering, but is kind of saying, yeah, it might be this, because I'm going to focus a little more on this. But, you know, he's not, you know, out there producing the thin blue line and, you know, making a documentary with a point and, or whatever, you know what I mean?
It's making a documentary with a gap.
Yeah, exactly. So, just a little bit of Les Blank. He was actually born in 1935, and he died this year in April of 2013.
That's sad.
He was made documentaries for a long while. He kind of took a pause in 1994, and then made his last film in 2007. So
What was his last film?
I don't know these things. I don't know.
Gap-toothed men.
I actually I found this film through the video store and through our friend Plapp, who was really into these documentaries. Specifically, I think it may have started with a documentary. Definitely it was A Burden of Dreams, which was also tied in with Werner Herzog Eats His Shoe.
These are all movies that Les Blank made.
So Burden of Dreams was a documentary about Werner Herzog
trying to make
Fitzcarraldo. And it's great. It's sort of it's better than Fitzcarraldo in terms of it's showing the darkness and how everything that can go wrong will go wrong sometimes, and when strong personalities are in these situations,
how do they
it's
cope?
Just explosive. And to be around interesting people in an extremely unusual situation and capture it seems like something Les Blank was working constantly to do. He a lot of his documentaries deal with music, a lot of American Creole, Cajun music from around the country. He was able to capture and document the only sort of live or living recordings of a lot of artists who have now passed away. And he had, really esoteric things that he was seeking out and just trying to capture and make a moment out of. And some of them are cute and fun, like In Heaven There Is No Beer is a documentary about American polka culture in the 70s and 80s. And how that, beer and bratwurst and lederhosen and the music around that culture. He did the same thing with Creole, and he did the same thing with the Cajun music. That these are these people, they live in these towns and they have a culture and things that they do built around and tied lovingly with the music that they perform and enjoy. And Gap-Toothed Women is sort of another fun moment in his filmmaking career. But yeah, so I thought it was nice to.
I can't believe it was made in '87. It seems so much older than that.
It's also
just looking at the people. It seemed. Yeah, I would have thought it was in the '70s.
Well, I think your perceptions shift around too. I mean, it was released in '87. I don't know how long it took to create it. It's also, you're talking about someone who's an artist producing films, sort of finding subject matters who may be more art community related, and therefore may sort of fall into more of your perceptions of people in the 70s or
that's true.
You know what I mean, who had. I think also we tend to skew our fashion and ideas about like a period a little bit. That shifts often as we grow up. We may not have as clear a picture.
Yeah, but '87 is like when Bill and Ted came out. I mean, just looking at the people in it, it really seems older than that. But anyway, I mean that's beside the point. I thought it was odd that it doesn't really go anywhere and it doesn't really do much, but it is super fun, and that's kind of the whole point. Is that it just seems very frivolous. And if that sounds fun to you, you should definitely watch it. But if you want to learn anything about any historic people or any
dental science,
if you want to learn anything about Gap Tooth, you're watching the wrong movie.
Yeah, I mean,
Just go out and do it, right? That's what.
There's some myths you would learn about the.
No, they weren't, because they weren't researched or actually. It's just some person saying, "Well, I once heard that there was a thing that might have." You know what I mean? It's just like, no, that might not actually be even real. That might have just been what your auntie told you because you have a gap tooth.
Right.
But there's the Canterbury Tales thing.
That's true. That is true.
I mean, I think this is like me not at all knowing anything about Les Blank or his MO or whatever, and maybe overthinking it. But part of me, and I guess this is also me coming from BuzzFeed, where this sort of like identity thing happens a lot, where part of me thinks he's doing this project where it's like pick a really relatively insignificant trait and find out like people will really identify with it, and you can of course find, like, you can do this with freckles, or if you have a mole on your face, or if you have curly hair,
right,
or if you're left-handed, or just like the weirdest, smallest, like way even smaller than that, more nuanced than that. You have like a cleft chin or something,
hook nose,
right? I'm sure people will be like, oh, well, you have dimples or a cleft chin or something. Here's a poem from the 1500s. It's like that someone wrote, or like a folk song or something about it from England or whatever. And it almost doesn't matter what the trait is at all, but it's I found it fascinating how much these people have thought of it. Like, I feel like it would take me a while to notice someone with a gap tooth. Like, if you had a cleft palate or something, I'd be like, okay, that's noticeable.
Yeah, Stacy Keach, what's up?
I don't know who that is, but
Don't worry about it.
Mike Hammer.
Yeah, man. Stacy Keach.
Stacy Keach from all the Mickey Spillane.
Oh, Mickey Spillane.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I didn't know that. But what was I saying? I found it interesting how important these like idiosyncratic traits are to all the people, and they all have their own theories about them, or their own old wives' tales about like what does it mean, and down to that like woman towards the end who's just like basically calls herself ugly and says, "Thank God I'm ugly because it made me like work really hard and become an interesting person." I'm like, whoa. Like, I don't think you're like totally okay looking. You're not at all like deformed or something.
Right.
But it is.
But I mean, if you talk to enough people, everyone will find that thing about themselves that makes
they'll
them
be
think
like, oh,
that
well, I must be where I am today because, God knows, because I like to put butter on my toast or something, or because like
I got a mole on my cheek.
Yeah, or I sleepwalk or something.
I guess I wonder too, though. Again, this may be just in terms of pointing to a subject matter. It's almost like R. Crumb, where you have someone who sexualizes women in a specific way and looks for something that's not the same, isn't a societal norm. And when he looks for powerful thighs and his concepts of women and what he is drawn to is significantly different than what's considered normal. And maybe Les Blank has, a thing for gap-toothed women.
Maybe he does, but I mean, the whole it did keep coming back to that concept of there would be other ladies speaking about their gap-toothed situation, but then the whole thing was negated when it was like, well, then Lauren Hutton came along, and now everybody loves gap teeth, and and so it was a weird.
Well, it's like Cindy Crawford and the Mole. Like,
Yeah.
But I mean, that's something too, though. I mean, I don't know. I guess it's a little unstructured.
Yeah.
And I enjoy it as just
it is a fun little like stream of conscious.
And
just kind of like riffing on this idea.
Yeah.
And
where
the
can you
idea
go with
that
it?
It's someone exploring this little subject. And if you were to take a look at it as, okay, physical imperfections, and, he kind of goes through the basic cycles of, here's something that people in some societies have, it happens everywhere. So there are folklores and different ways of treating it in different societies. You're kissed by fire because you have red hair or whatever.
That's not real. That's a fiction
that's
book.
That's Game of Thrones.
That's a bunch of pucky.
That's not nonfiction.
So, or you're lucky because you got red hair. There is sort of ideas, or you're a ginger and so you have no soul.
I think what's funny is aren't in some fair-skinned countries like Ireland, if you have dark hair, you're like angrier or something. You know what I mean? Like they
Black
flip,
Irish.
Right.
Yeah.
I think they flip it where like if you have dark hair,
you're a little bit outside.
You're crazy just because you're like not in the majority.
So I guess it kind of followed that, like, here's a physical imperfection that people get orthodontists make money closing these things off. Like, it's something that gets corrected. And maybe, I don't notice it. I don't go looking for it, but maybe it gets corrected out. Can you think like offhand, oh, I know this person and they have.
Oh man, I know plenty. My whole family has a lot of gap teeth. Actually, my dad's is very pronounced, but I feel like even in this documentary in the 80s, they were talking about like, well, the people have been wanting to close my gap forever.
Right.
I think that it's either you can choose to do that or not. I don't think what I found odd, it's what Adam touched on, is how defined people are by it. You know what I mean? And,
right. They
I guess
self-identify.
if a guy sticks a camera in your face and says, "Tell me about your gap tooth," I guess
that's the story
you will talk about it. So maybe these people aren't as defined as it seems by this trait, but it's a short little movie, and so because it's such a short little fun thing, I really didn't mind not learning anything. I mean, when it comes to documentaries, I generally want to take something out of it, but this one, it felt like an exercise.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I think it's a thought experiment. Yeah. It's really like, pay attention to this.
Yeah, and so
here are some ideas.
I think if you're interested in documentaries, or if you are in film school or anything like this, check it out, because it's really interesting in that way.
Yeah, I think that's what it's. I think it's an exploration. It's not a standard narrative. As I said, it's not a narrative documentary. It's a question documentary. It's saying, here's a paragraph of text that doesn't really have a context. So you could almost imagine someone handing you a reading comprehension, or what do you think about this essay portion to a test after this thing. Not that it's set up like a structured thought experiment like that, but it's supposed to make you, I think, go, oh, what about me is outside societal norms? Does that define me? Does that like adjust the way that I interact with people positively or negatively? Does it color my outlook? Do I look at people who have a difference, like a gap tooth, differently than I look at someone without? Like, if someone's got something outside the norm, what weight do I give that? And I think that that's something, these little projects, it's not highfalutin and it's not pretentious, but it's still like a piece. It's delightful, but also thought-provoking, and that's good. I like that.
Yeah, it's interesting. I have a big red birthmark on my right arm, and so some of the women in the film talk about this like, oh, this is a really big deal in my life, but some of them are also like, oh yeah, some people point this out and I'm just kind of whatever about it. And so, like you were saying, like, you think about your own things, and so I would relate to those women who, oh yeah, I can tell you some things about this, but it's not really a thing that I think about, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's an interesting thing. Like you were saying, you could think of like freckles or all these different things.
Unibrows.
Right. And how people think about themselves, and it's, I don't know, it's a little weird though. It's interesting that you bring up R. Crumb earlier, because it is a little unclear. When we talked about R. Crumb in a past podcast, we talked about how he sexualized these women who were unconventionally attractive, I guess you'd say, and so there's this there's a group of people that say he's misogynist because he's very over-sexualizing.
Specific.
Right, he's these women all the time. But then on the other hand, a lot of women really appreciate his portrayal of these unconventionally attractive women as being, very attractive to him. So, this had a little bit of that, I guess, but it was
like you're saying, there's a tinge of fetish like someone
Right.
with like a fetishment towards this. Like,
Well, I think maybe just the weird slow zoom ins.
Right on the
people
mouth,
are talking.
yeah.
Yeah,
And they have the 80s
was
lipstick
a little
on.
unnerving. Simply because these people are talking and they're talking about something, and you just see the camera just slowly.
Yeah, you do the thing though, like
Right.
when you were a kid and you take home videos, and I remember doing this to my mom. I would zoom in on her mouth, and she had no idea.
But it's weird because all these women, I think pretty much all of these women he shows are attractive, conventionally attractive, and
yes,
um,
I agree.
I mean,
Well, no,
so I
yeah,
don't think
right.
that,
Like none of them
yeah.
are like, oh, that woman's hot. Oh my God, she opened her mouth, and there's
Right,
a
right.
Well, that gap tooth
millimeter
is the-
gap between her teeth, and I'm like, oh,
Right. But the
nope, that's a
yeah.
0 or whatever.
And yeah, so many of them are like the Lauren Hutton, where this is like a beautiful woman, and so that thing is just charming, and it's not like a really
It's just a
huge
quirk.
gap.
Yeah,
right? Yeah, it's a
I don't know.
feature.
The one woman had the
It's not a
like
bug.
dangling bit there. I think the first woman they feature, it's a little bit. That's where
Yeah,
it's
they
kinda like,
go in really close.
I
Yeah,
want to take a little
She
pair of
has the
scissors
biggest
and
gap,
just get
too.
that right out of there.
yeah.
You're
Yeah.
talking about the space in between the front two teeth, the
But to the
dangling
point
bit.
where there's
yeah.
like, and then it's almost
It's like a little
there's-
punching bag.
Yeah.
There, yeah.
Ooh.
It's like that Ren and Stimpy episode where his
Yeah.
nerve endings are hanging out.
Yeah.
But yeah, they just have this kind of like weird, like you were saying, the weird, like some of the women were like saying, "Oh well, I have this gap tooth, so I'm not a sex object like all the other women. Therefore, I have to do something with my life." And it was just sort of this weird.
And then he goes into a montage
nerd.
of like gap tooth women doing exciting and interesting things, like dancing or playing music.
Yeah, that was
to overcome their
that was
handicap.
weird. That was a little bit. I don't know about
See
that.
how they cope?
Yeah.
Yeah, but they were doing cool things. So
Yeah.
it
It was
like,
kind of fun.
yeah.
A slice of life in 1987 or whenever it was shot.
Yeah.
Yeah. you
Frozen in time.
But again, so Les Blank's pretty prolific. This was his like 27th or 28th film at that point.
Wow.
So I mean, this one came a little bit after Burden of Dreams as well.
That came out after Left-Handed Women and
Before Garlic.
Green-Eyed Women.
Garlic is one that he actually did do. It's a documentary about garlic.
Huh. Wow.
And another sort of just like,
He's a minimalist.
look at this.
Yeah.
Garlic.
Yeah, did he make films for Sesame Street? I mean, it's
The letter B was one of his other.
Les Blank is not his real name. So
Garbage Men.
the letter A. But yeah, I don't know. What'd you guys think? Had you seen this before?
We just talked about what we thought.
No. Had you seen it before? This is final
No,
thoughts.
this is the first time I saw it.
Okay.
I would recommend it, and it's on Netflix, so it's really easy for anybody to watch. It's weird and funny.
It is on Netflix?
No, I don't think
Oh,
It's not.
sorry.
You can buy it through Les Blank's site. You can probably buy it on
It's
like
not on
iTunes or
Netflix.
whatever.
Never mind.
It's a little difficult to find his stuff. but
Okay, then never mind.
It's very
Don't watch
arty.
it. It's too difficult to
I
find.
Yeah, I liked it. I was new to Les Blank and new to the film.
I liked it, but don't expect much. Just expect a smile.
If you're a dentist, you're gonna be really annoyed.
Oh man.
Full of dental
If you have a
inaccuracies.
gap tooth too, you'd
If you're
probably.
a Canterbury Tales, like a Chaucer scholar, you're
Yeah.
gonna be a little annoyed.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yes.
not pronouncing them right.
Right. So Les Blank's A Gap Tooth Woman is the name. A
Gap-toothed women.
Tooth Women. From 1987. You can find it online and probably physically somewhere in some obscure corner.
Probably physically.
Probably not. You won't find any.
Find it in our
It's
I don't
not
know,
on,
if you-
so it's
if-
not on YouTube?
I would
Maybe.
check. I
It might
bet
be
you
on
it's in
YouTube.
libraries. I bet you they have it in
That's
some
possible.
libraries. I bet you they have it in some DVD stores. There's still a DVD store down the street from here.
It's possible.
You don't have to get
So-
fixed
Impossible.
anymore.
Maybe.
Hi, we're looking for gaps. Anybody have one? No, see? Everybody's straight here. No gaps. It is. It's a sex picture.
Take care.
Bye. Yes, thank you. One spitting. Good. Well, you watch. Watch it. Thanks. Watch it. Horse is going to get you guys. We wouldn't run you over. You won't? You guys got gap teeth? Anybody? No? Gaps? I do. Hey, gap toother, show them.
Not a cap. I had that one fixed.
Oh. a cap, not a gap.
Such a question, there are many possible answers, such as hard work.
Years ago, always a good
Feel I'm alone in this whole of existence. I know it's
All right, everybody. Thanks for listening to our second episode, Nonfiction. We're going to have a new theme next week, which we'll figure out and let you know when it happens. So this nonfiction thing the theme could have been 94 almost, because Les Blank kind of stopped making films in 94. That was sort of his last real film. Bo Jackson ended his career in 94.
You retired?
Yeah.
Huh.
Kim Il-sung died in 94. And Rebel Without a Q came out in 95. So there you go. It all sort of comes together.
Take that, high school.
Well, now. So yeah, thanks for breaking the number chain, gang.
There we go.
Back in 94.
So you can find more about the show and the number 94 at newtoyoushow.com. If you want to leave us a comment or a rating on iTunes, that would be awesome. Do it.
Yeah.
Leave a good one. And yeah, I was one of your hosts, John Holt. You can find me on Twitter at Lord Joho. With me this week was...
I'm Mary Varn. You can find me on Twitter at Mary Varn, and you can read my webcomic at npccomic.com.
I'm Adam Moerder. You can reach me at my website, adammoerder.com. It's Adam, Moerder.com.
And I'm Keith Allen Vincent. You can find me on Tumblr. My name's earthlingkeith.tumblr.com. And I hope you all have a great week. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, thanks for listening again. You can tweet the show at New to You Show on Twitter. And I hope it was new to you. If it wasn't, well, something else.
Well, if it wasn't, then that's okay.
I don't know.
No, it's fine. Gap Tooth Women wasn't new to me, but I still enjoyed watching it again.
Doesn't sound it. Go back and listen to a segment and give us your opinion on whether Keith enjoyed it.
I did enjoy it.
All right. You hate Gap Tooth Women. I'm telling your mom.
No.
I don't want your life.
All right, everybody. Thank you again. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Adam, for being back on with us.
Of course, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks, Adam.
All right. Everybody, join us again next week.
Bye-bye.
It's all about the music. This pitiful life is all about the music.
with him together forever, without the limitation of time ever again. So the second coming of the Lord is not there.